One of the stranger toy creations from the early 90s, the Incredible Crash Dummies were created out of a series of PSAs from the late 80s promoting seatbelt safety. Dummies Vince and Larry would exchange puns during commercial breaks until they ultimately would find themselves in an accident, with the punchline being, "You could learn a lot from a dummy." Eventually, Tyco Toys launched several series of the figures, and in 1993 the gaming community received the Incredible Crash Dummies across multiple platforms, including the Sega Genesis. Developed by Gray Matter Inc. and published by Flying Edge, The Incredible Crash Dummies loosely follows the short film by the same name that aired on Fox Kids and later packaged with the action figures. Head dummy Dr. Zeb is kidnapped by the villainous Junkman with plans to drain Doc's memory to get the top secret Torso 9000 plans to make himself invincible. It's up to Slick to stop the brain drain by making his way through 4 treacherous zones to defeat Junkman. To take out Junkman, Slick is armed with wrenches and the ability to jump on enemies' heads. He can also roll to get out of tight spaces, along with picking up a few power-ups along the way. Slick can take up to 5 hits, losing limbs until he is nothing more than a torso. Each zone starts with 1 to 2 warm-up levels that are fairly easy to navigate. They take place outside the main building you are entering and are linear for the most part. Once inside is where the frustration begins. The buildings are loaded with traps, enemies, falling objects, spring launchers, and more, with very little space to stand still and to take a breather. It's one thing to simply navigate through this maze, but you also have a timer ticking down, forcing you to balance speed and caution. Now, it may seem like all this is not a big deal, but the core problem in the game is hit detection. To call it poor is a gross understatement. It is so finicky in every aspect of the game that it nearly breaks it. Sometimes you can land in a general area and you'll be okay, other times you're just a hair off and you'll lose your limbs. Combine this with the timer and the cheap placement of all the obstacles, and now you have a game that feels cheap and irritating. Once you get through the zone building, it's on to the boss fight. You only get roughly 1 minute, and the only reason why these fights are difficult is because, again, the hit detection. You'll be throwing wrenches and jumping on the top of the vehicles until either you'll lose all your limbs or the enemy is defeated. Finally, in between the boss fights and the start of the next zone, there are bonus stages that have you behind the wheel of a vehicle based on the zone you just completed and driving it into a wall. Once you complete the bonus game, you are treated to an irrelevant, pun-filled cutscene. While I never had the Crash Dummy toys as a child, I was certainly familiar with them. I was hoping this would be a fun trip down memory lane. Instead, I found myself wanting to slam the controller over and over again because of frustrating gameplay mechanics. Grinding out to the end only brought joy because I knew I'd never have to play this game again. This is must-skip nostalgia.